You know, if you don't want to fight for souls, or fight for the truth, or fight for Jesus, or fight for the Bible, you got to find something to fight for. Why not fight for something that's like freedom, and fight for freedom of speech, and fight against socialism? Fight for your own freedom, your own business, your own peace of mind. Fight for other people's ability to create a business, to get free, to have some rights. Freedom of speech is what America's built on. And for them to shut down freedom of speech is ridiculous. If Twitter charged $8, I'd pay for it. I'd pay for it. Fight for freedom. Stand for freedom. It's really a no-brainer. Because really, if you look at history, the Pharaoh enslaving the Egyptians, enslaving the Israelites. If you look at all the slavery, all the dictators, they want to take away your freedom. They want to take away your ability. They have no power. And so they sell their soul to the magician priest class, and then they lie to the people, because they'll say, well, you can be a figurehead and have all the pleasure and all the riches and all the freedom to do whatever, but they're still a slave. You gotta fight for something. Even if you disagree with somebody, fight for freedom of speech. Fight for freedom. I mean, if somebody wants to be homeless and live out in the woods, let them. It's their choice. We know you can go out and help them and tell them, hey, you're better off having some running water and some clean water. And we know they poison the water, you know. So you could create your own little filter system. One of my goals this year is to get me one of those, it's a camper van heater. It's a diesel heater that they put in these camper vans, and they say it keeps them warm. I want to just get one to experiment with it. It's only like $150 on Amazon, I think. You got to fight for something. The ideal thing would be to fight for souls, fight for the truth. When you're interacting with people in 3D, there's a lot of preconceived ideas. What you're going to find out is you really can't yoke up with the unsaved, and you can't yoke up with people. See, the unsaved really have no logic. They actually destroy themselves. But the biggest way to fight is to maintain your ship. Your body ship, your business ship, your house ship, to maintain your ship. Keep the shop, and the shop will keep you. Maintain yourself. Maintain your credit if you can. Try to maintain it all. Stuff breaks down, stuff happens, I know that. But you've got to fight. If you don't fight for your freedom, somebody's going to take it from you. One of the reasons I've always worked 2 jobs my whole life is because I know if they think you depend on them or you need them, they will mess with you. They will jerk you around like they own you or something. I don't care who it is. If you get married, you better make sure you marry somebody that understands what I'm saying here. Because if you don't, You're going to marry somebody whose in-laws manipulate them and control them, and they'll say stuff like, well, I'm going to write you out of the will. Go ahead. I don't need your money. I already created my own system. You're not going to Jezebel my home. See, the in-law Jezebel spirit tries to control your home and your house and your children and the way you raise your kids and the way that you run your family. Seriously. I've seen it too many times. The Jezebel spirit, let's say you don't believe in Christmas. Celebrate, putting a tree up and all that stuff. I mean, Christ Mass. We know it points back to Jesus, but you don't celebrate all the stupid stuff. It's fine if you celebrate Thanksgiving, Christmas, Easter, and all. But why would you, let's say you don't celebrate Halloween, okay? Halloween, why would you even think about celebrating Halloween? The only reason you would think about it if you're saved is because everybody else is doing it. Otherwise you wouldn't do it. Why even think about it? It doesn't make sense. So the in-laws will come in and try to get you to influence your home to do like they want you to be. The in-laws want your traditions to be like their traditions. Instead of you setting your own traditions, your new traditions, they want to dictate what your traditions are. They want to take away your belief system. They want your belief system to tie into the hive. Because because they do it at work, or they always did it this way, or the TV says do it this way, or the neighbors do it this way. And it's a slow burn. It's an indoctrination. You're boiling the frog without you. They're boiling your home, your family, your traditions, your way of living without you even knowing. And then a lot of times you tell your wife that, hey, this is not our tradition. Why are you getting upset that we're not following that, but they are? She can't understand it. She can't accept it. If you stand for your own beliefs and your own traditions and your own idea, and you have this line of demarcation, and you marry somebody who doesn't understand that already before you marry them, then it's going to be war, because you're not going to compromise with the culture law. You're not going to compromise with the denominational law. You're not going to compromise with the 501(c)(3). You're not going to compromise, but because the culture law, the bloodline law, the Jezebel encroachment, trying to get you to do it their way. It's actually a copy machine. If you look at the trees, let's say you got an oak tree in your front yard and it drops some seed down and it makes another oak tree. Grass copies itself. Animals copy themselves. Humans copy. Everything's a copy machine in the 3D. And so if an in-law tries to break your threshold, come across your threshold, what are they going to do? They can't help but try to indoctrinate you into their tradition. They can't help it. It's just part of, you're fighting a stronghold like you ain't never seen. Well, this is the way we do it. Well, go ahead and do it, but don't do it here. Do it over there. You have freedom. Praise God, you got some freedom, but don't try to put your belief systems onto me. Try to tell my family how to run mine. And when you first get married, that's a lot of it. The churches will try to get your family to follow them. Your in-laws try to get you to follow them. Your neighbors follow us. And they want you just to do it the way they want you to do it. And you're like, don't you see this is my house? I'm And a lot of times, the only reason they do it, a lot of times they encroach, is because you got an enemy in your own house. Instead of the wife talking to you about it, she's going behind your back talking to people. Otherwise, why would they even think they have any kind of right to say anything? You don't go into their business. Why are they on yours? Because you got an enemy in your own house. It's the only way it makes sense. That's the only thing that could make sense. You got an enemy in your own house. The Bible says that. A man's enemies are of his own house. If you're in somebody else's house, you do it their way. If they're in your house, they do it your way. It's not a maybe. It's absolute. If you go to another culture, you go to another country or state, you have to adapt to the culture. Even though you're not of this culture or this world, this place, you have to adapt to the culture. You go to a job, you adapt to the culture. If you go work at Amazon, you adapt to the culture. If you go work at McDonald's, you adapt to the culture. If you're there long enough, you can create the culture. But it takes a while to shift the culture. These Jezebel spirits really, when you step into a job, let me just say this. Let's say you step into a new job. You're going in usually with a bunch of Jezebels around you. And then when you step in and you start obeying the boss, you start obeying the rules, and you start doing what's right and managing your department or whatever, they're going to get mad. A lot of them are going to leave. They're going to try to run you off, but as long as you know what you're doing and you're doing the job right, they can't run you off. But they end up leaving. Why? Because the Jezebel spirit can't stand to look at you. If you're doing what's right, they have to leave. If they can't destroy you, they will leave. If you're married to somebody and they're leaving, okay, they're abandoning ship because you make them look bad. They can't stand it. You're making them look bad. You're doing right, they're doing wrong, and so they're going to have to get away from you. If you're married to somebody and you're doing right and they're doing wrong, they're going to abandon ship. They eventually will abandon ship because it's too much. What they're trying to do is make you into a copy of them. If they've sold out to evil, and it's covert evil, but if they sold out to evil, and you can actually see this in like the Star Trek series and all, you'll have a ship of people doing good, right? And there'll be one person who's trying to cause the ship to be corrupt, right? And that one person might pull one person in with them to convince them to go against the captain. But eventually the rest of the crew realizes what's going on. Captain realizes it. And that person ends up in the brig. They end up get kicked off the ship. Sometimes they end up dead, you know. There's nothing new. If they write the script, if you watch some Star Trek series and you pay attention to that ship as your house ship or your business ship or your own body ship, if you're fighting against yourself, you're destroying yourself. If somebody's on the ship fighting against the mission of the ship, they destroy themselves. And they end up becoming, you know what they end up becoming? Vagabonds, wanderers. They wanderlust. They're not stable. They're always moving. They're really not growing spiritually at all. They're actually deep down. They'll say, well, I'm just traveling. I'm going to see some places. They're actually running from God's authority. I know nobody's going to tell you this stuff because most people are stuck in it. Why are you running? Where are you going to go? No matter where you go, there's still authority there. And no matter where you go, you're still there. Why are you running? Authority's going to chase you down. Why are you running? Who you running to? Because you're a vagabond. You're a vagabond. You're a gypsy. You don't want to see it. Birds of a feather flock together. You're a gypsy, and you can't admit it. Because if you admit it, you have to admit you're on the dark side. And if you're a gypsy, most of the people around you they're gypsies, they're thieves. Gypsies, tramps, and thieves. Isn't that what's her name said? A traveling band. But we'll fight for your right. We'll fight for your right to be free and become a gypsy. If that's what you want to be. If that's what you want to be, find something to fight for. You're gonna destroy yourself, but go ahead and fight for it. Because deep down you're running from authority. But anyway, fight for something. If you fight for your rebellion, go ahead. It's going to knock you back, though. You're fighting for the wrong thing. If you're saved, fight for what's right. All these chaos people, they're wanting chaos. They want order out of chaos, right? All these chaos people who fight for chaos, go ahead. It ain't going to get you anywhere. You're creating a pattern in your soul, in your heart, in your mind to destroy yourself. You end up getting shot by one of your friends or somebody. If you're an agent of chaos, go ahead and fight for it if you want it, but know it's gonna you're gonna reap what you sow. Other people around you want order and peace. The Bible says pray for peace, pray for your authority, pray for peace. And you're praying for war and chaos. These chaos agents end up destroying themselves. Watch them. Track them over time. I'd say, what's the number of completion? Number 7. After 7 years, the number of completion, they have to, it's 7 years or less, they will destroy themselves. Once they say, hey, I don't like the system, I'm going to be an agent of chaos, 7 years, they destroy themselves. $7 years or less. Usually it's a whole lot less.